Hey, it's your boy, and welcome back once again to Lunar Magic 101. So, one thing I completely forgot to bring up in the previous episode was the difference between a headered and headerless file. So, the main difference right off the bat is a pure Super Nintendo cartridge dump does not have a header. A header is put onto a ROM file and is used as blank space, pretty much. Sometimes there is information stored in there. Sometimes it has a name, who ripped it, the name of the file, things like that. All in all, the header is kind of just useless space. It is. I won't even try and deny that. It's useless space. But a bunch of hacks and pretty much everyone out there uses a headered ROM. Not for the fact that it's easier to use, but for the fact that it's just kind of out there. And as far as I know you can go here to options and silently add a header to ROM in Lunar Magic. I don't know right off the bat if Lunar Magic will let you edit headerless ROMs or not, or if it has to have a header on it. But the header is essentially like, I think it's 200 bits of blankness at the beginning of a ROM file. It makes the hack like 512 bytes larger than it's supposed to be, something like that. I'm not completely 100% sure about the main difference between header and headerless. All I know is the header is essentially useless, but in the beginning, at least, I don't know if it's still this way, but Lunar Magic was only made to run on headered ROMs, so people got used to that, used headered ROMs, and that's kind of the way it's been ever since, for Lunar Magic at least. So, that is something I didn't go over. I probably should have. I completely forgot, to be honest, just for the fact that it's not really... I don't want to say it's not known, but it's not really a big thing that's like gone over a whole lot. But enough about that. In this episode, I'm mainly going to go over design concepts and what you should do, what looks good, what doesn't do. Or what doesn't look good. Right off the bat, for me personally, whenever I start a new level, I completely get rid of everything in the level. Control, delete, you'll get this message. Do you want to delete all objects, sprites, everything? You say okay. Blank. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Completely blank. Gets rid of everything. All sprites and everything. So, it literally lets you start over from a blank slate. All you have to do is save it, and whenever you go back, it will always be that way. So, that is my preferred method. And from there, I go, and personally, I use the DirectMap 16 files. This gives you every single block in the game cut up into its perspective 16 by 16 tiles. And this is where you would actually get custom objects, custom blocks, XGFX, which I will cover later. That is later stuff, so don't expect that in the next episode or so. But this is what I do for the most part. Not everything Big slopes, I will still use the standard objects. For normal ground, I will use the extended objects because it's a whole lot easier for me personally. There's no big difference. There's nothing saying that you have to do it one way or another. I just choose to do it this way because I like to and I'm used to it. So, when you're making a level, generally a good thing to do is go and draw out a level you want to do. I'll grab either a notebook that I have laying around and I'll sketch out a simple design, or I will pull up like MS Paint and I will just draw a simple design. So that is what I do. It seems to work and actually is shared by a lot of people. A lot of people actually do that to make a concept level. But everyone has their own style. That is just my preferred method. But I'm just going to show a basic level design and what to do, what not to do. So if you're creating a level and you're like, well, I have this big flat piece at the beginning, that's fine. And then I kind of want it to go up here. That's fine as well. Well, you can't really just do that. Oops, I don't know what I did. I started typing. Okay. I always forget if you just type. That is one thing that people were telling me, and I always forget about as well. If you open a window and you just start typing, it will move to whatever, So you want the gold one up. You type in gold, it will go to the only one that says gold. It works in here too. Like bush, I don't know. Yeah. I always forget about that. Not really a big deal. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. Stop getting distracted. So you want land and you're like, well, this looks good for now. It really doesn't. And the main reason for that is you have these cutoff areas right here. It is right here and right here. Oh, actually, this whole thing and this whole thing as well. It's cut off. It just ends. And it doesn't look good. And you really want to fix that. You don't want to just leave it there. It doesn't look good. It looks unprofessional. Especially for this. I mean, it's going over the ground and you're like, well, how can I really deal with that? If you look right here, right next to the berries, right here, it has this little end piece. It's not used in Super Mario World at all, as far as I'm aware. But it does exist, and it actually caps off the ground, and it actually looks really good. And for this, if you want it to be pass-throughable, you just grab one of these. But you want to make sure you grab the right one, because if you don't, you'll end up with this situation where you still have a tiny bit of cutoff right there. Even though it's not major, it's still something that you want to watch for and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Another bigger thing that a lot of people do, and I don't think people are really aware of, is they will do something like this and then add a wall to it. And I'm just going to show it off right here. That if you do that and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it look like this. It's going to be awesome. Well, there's a big problem with doing that. And I will show that off right here. If you go into your game and you go over to your level, not the right level. If you go over to the level, you'll notice that you can walk through here, but then you kind of hit this invisible wall and you just stop. It looks very unnatural, and it doesn't look good playing. If you were able to pass through there, that'd be one thing. You pass through and then you couldn't get back. That'd be one thing. Making it so you cannot pass through it and you're just stuck running against nothing. You're not even like up against the grass that would make the wall. No, you're just kind of there. It doesn't look good. It really doesn't. And so that is something that you really do want to try and avoid as well. So the main thing is, if you're going to do this and you're going to have land in a way that makes it so it goes over another piece of land, you either need to make it so your edge is far enough away that you'll never hit it by jumping or anything, unless you had like Yoshi or something and did some I can't even say it, some huge jump and were able to get there. I would always suggest whatever type of edge you start with, that is what you finish on. So that being said, you grab the same type of edge and you just finish on the same type. So you start on this pass-throughable side, you end on the pass-throughable side. That would be the best option in most cases where you don't want people going through. Well, the other option you have in doing something like that is, so you want it so you can walk through here, but you get stopped by dirt on the other side. Well, you could kind of do that if you did a dual-sided thing like this, and I only want half of that. So you have something like this. But with this, you would end up having to kind of leave a space there. And actually, there is no corner for a downwards arc like that. And because of that, you're still going to run into issues. I mean, I'm kind of pushing it as far as I can go design-wise to make it still look good in the scenario that I set up. So pretty much you need to make something like this, where you still have a pass-throughable area, but you have a solid landmass. And for this corner right here, there's not extremely a whole lot you can do with the default graphics or default tiles. What you would have to do is go into the 16 by 16 editor, go down to one of these tiles, either this one, 1E2, or this one, 1E4. Select it, go down to a blank page, paste it in, and do flip by Y and flip by X. So by doing that, you'll get these corners. You can do them either way you want. They're very obvious when you hit save. And the other thing is, I would suggest just making them act like 25. And the reason for that is the act like setting is actually what block it's going to act like. If you go up to the very top, and right here, block 25, if I can find it. Where are you? Where are you, block 25? Yeah, great. The one block I say use, and I can't figure out where it is. There it is. 25. A completely blank tile used by the game to fill empty areas in the level. That is what you want. You want the completely blank, empty area, and that will make it so Mario just kind of flies through it in any circumstance. And that's normally what you want to do for situations like this. You could change it to 130, which is this one, the gray cement block. Mario can't go through it. It is one of the few completely solid blocks that doesn't change. So if you made it act like 132, which is the brown used block, when you hit a blue POW, you could still collect it as a coin. So that's not something you want to do. That being said, because I put those in and saved it, now if I go to the Add Objects window and go down, page 1, 2, or 0, 1, 2, I have these here now, so I can complete my corner. And that's what you do to make this little landmass. And that just carries on really for anything you do. You always want to make sure that if you put something down, you are getting the same out of it, I should say. So you don't have awkward glitching. I say glitching, it's more or less hitting walls or whatever, and invisible walls. I'll just call it that. Hitting invisible walls that it just doesn't look good. It really doesn't. Another thing I want to show off is water. And there's two major things with that. One, if you put water right up here against the top area, it's kind of hard to see, but right here, there's a bit of cutoff. And the reason for that is because this is rounded off, it doesn't actually meet up with the edge of the water. So what you need to do is either move that down or have a completely square surface right there. So if you had a pillar that came up next to it, the water could sit there perfectly fine against the pillar and not have any issues. But because it was sitting next to the landmass, it's going to have problems. So I'm just going to do that. Have the small little pillar here. And if I can remember where they are, do this, do that, and do that. But again, this runs into a problem of cutoff right there. So there's lots and lots of situations where cutoff exists and you may not even realize it, and you just have to pay attention. You need to look and just be careful that you're actually getting all of your cutoff. Another thing I want to show is this. This is a common thing people do, is put stuff on the very bottom row in Lunar Magic. This is not a good thing to do. And there's one major reason why. When you go into your game and you go to play it, you come over here and people are like, oh hey look, wait, this isn't a hole. You can actually stand on this. That's how it works. And I'm not saying that it's good that way. I'm not saying it's bad that way, because you really can make some interesting things with it. But in general, it's not it's not good. It doesn't look good. You end up just walking on absolutely nothing. And if you're wondering what I was doing there, I was turning on and off the new graphics engine, because it does actually change that a little bit. Having that graphics engine off, it will show you the very top pixel of what's on that bottom layer. It shows absolutely 1 pixel. But if you turn that engine on, it just shows a blue line that goes across. I don't know why it does that. It's only in ZSNES. It's not SNES 9X or BSNES. I just wanted to point that out. But that is why you don't want to use the bottom row in Lunar Magic. Another thing people do that is very common, still doesn't look good, they'll take gray cement blocks or even a pipe and put them next to water. And why that's not a good thing? Cut off, cut off, cut off, cut off, cutoff. Lots of cutoff. Even cutoff up there. Just doesn't look good. And for the pipe, I brought that up because the pipe is offset by 1 pixel, creating a complete air gap right there in between the water and the pipe. That doesn't look good. So unless you have water coming up directly to the side of the pipe, and even then, you have this 1 pixel, and it's not very big, but you have 1 pixel that has cutoff on it when the peak of the wave touches the pipe. So my suggestion, don't do any of that and just have it meet up with something solid. Even the bullet bill shooter. Having a bullet bill shooter right there, you hit something solid, and you have nothing to worry about. So, as you can see, it comes up, it hits, and it's perfectly fine. In both directions. So that's something that you want to watch for as well. Having the water, those are really one of that is really one of the biggest things I see people do, is using the water and having it butt up against something that has rounded edges or is missing a pixel. And that is very common on people's first time hacks. And the reason I say that is I'm not trying to be mean, but it's true. Also, another thing people tend to do that is also not very good to do is having something like this. Even though there is no cutoff due to the water, there is one major issue that makes absolutely no sense physics-wise, and just kind of makes a WTF moment to the player. When you come up here and it's like, oh, this is solid, and it's like, well, that's solid as well. And then you're like, well, what? I'm going through that. Well, that's not exactly a good thing, because you're going from what you would assume to be the background of the water, because you have this piece of land going in front of it, to jumping directly to the foreground of this object. So that's never a good thing to do. If you're ever going to do something like that, have land, you always have to have it solid. Have something solid against it. So, I never put empty ground like that next to water. The one exception to this is if you're doing a water level and everything is water. It doesn't really matter because you're swimming through everything. So, those are some of the really, really big things I see people do. Another big thing I see people do is munchers. 1, they stack munchers. And this doesn't look good for many reasons, which I've heard the arguments over and over, and I've gotten tired of the arguments. The big argument is, well, they're plants. It's not connected to anything. Look at that. It is not connected. And the second argument is, well, you have the jumping piranha plants, and they're not connected to anything. Well, here's the big thing that, in my eyes, makes the most sense. In the Mario universe, plants, for the most part, there are some weird exceptions in other games, but 90% of the time in the Mario universe, plants are controlled by gravity. They are either bolted to the ground in some fashion, or if they can jump, they fall down. And because these plants are non-movable, they don't move around, they should be grounded in some fashion. It is that way with everything. Vines, come out of blocks, they go up, or they just exist in game between two blocks or ground and a block. Piranha plants come out of pipes, they are grounded by a stem. Jumping piranha plants are not grounded by a stem, but they come back down to the ground and they cannot stack on top of each other. I can go on and on naming off different plants that do stuff. Nippers, they are not bound to the ground, but they are bound to gravity. They hop around, and again, they do not stack on each other. So, there's many, many reasons I can go on and on. But, the other thing, having a muncher float. Really, it's just defying gravity. It doesn't look good. And I know the same arguments can be made, but if you want to make the argument, well, it's a Mario universe, they can float or whatever. Give the muncher something to float with. I mean, do some extended graphics, give it the same propeller of the jumping piranha plant, and have little helicopter munchers. Not that hard to do. Though, not sure how well that would go over. So, that is something that you want to avoid as well. Do not stack munchers. It does not look good. Really, it doesn't. It also, I've seen it done many times. People see Kaizo and they're like, oh, I'm going to do what Kaizo did. Stacking munchers doesn't really make difficulty. It makes artificial difficulty. And the main reason those are different is difficulty is making something very unique and very challenging. Artificial difficulty is making something that's not really difficult, just very annoying because you have to be very precise at it. And the reason it's not difficult, but you have to be precise, is it's like the glitch. There is a glitch which allows you to run up the side of munchers by using a pink triangle. If you use that pink triangle and run up the munchers, you are completely fine until you cross the top corner. If you jump on that single pixel, you are on the very edge, very corner of the muncher. You will not take any damage and you will jump forward. This is artificial difficulty because it's not that hard to do, but it takes pixel perfect timing and it is just annoying. A real difficulty would be having a solid landmass that at the very top you would have to jump immediately or else you'd plummet into lava. This is hard and challenging because even though you have more time to react, you have a slower reaction time because you know what you have to do and you're kind of anticipating jumping, but you're not sure exactly when. With the munchers, you know exactly when, it's just annoying because of how it has to be done. If that definition makes any sense to anyone. Well, design-wise, I'm not sure what else to go over right now. From what I have in this little time I've spent talking, I have this little thing right here. You have a little, your little trap. You fall down the hole. You can come over here. And you have your muncher. So, this is just very basic, concept-y. What is good design? What looks good? If people want to see more design videos, put what you want to see in the comments. Next time, though, I will be going over sub-levels and some more of the menu options. So, yes. Next time will be sub-levels, which includes pipes and how they work, and a few other of the menu icons, which you will want to know when starting to hack. This has been Ninja Boy, and I will be back later with more Lunar Magic 101. See you guys then.